Why does Malachi leave us with such an impactful promise and warning? At the end of the book of Malachi, we are left with a promise that echoes like a call of alert to all humanity. He will turn the hearts of the parents to their children, and the hearts of the children to their parents, or else I will come and strike the land with total destruction. But what does this message mean? What could it say to us today, as we face a world full of generational conflicts and growing family divisions? Imagine yourself living in Malachi's time, an era of uncertainty and turbulence. The Jewish people had returned from exile, but life was still hard, full of struggles and disagreements. Malachi speaks of a day of the Lord that will bring justice and purification, but before that, there is a promise of reconciliation, a promise that, if ignored, will bring devastating consequences. This theme resonates deeply today, as the distance between parents and children, between generations and beliefs, seems greater than ever. The story of reconciliation that lost its way. Once upon a time, in a small village, a wise man named Josiah was known for his ability to calm disputes and bring families together. He deeply believed that a divided home was the ruin of an entire community. He lived by this conviction, helping parents and children understand each other, listen to one another, and care for one another, keeping the village united. However, Josiah had a son, Ephraim, who didn't believe in his father's ideas. Ephraim viewed the world with skeptical eyes and saw his father's compassion as weakness. Over time, they grew apart, and the words of the father, which once brought peace and reconciliation to many, seemed unable to reach his own son. Josiah became saddened as he watched the division affect not only their relationship but also the spirit of the village. Conflicts and disagreements began to emerge among families that had once followed Josiah's example. This story, though ancient, is reflected in many homes today. How often do we hear of families who, instead of supporting each other, drift apart? With the fast-paced, surface-level nature of social media, generational misunderstandings have become more common. Many children see their parents' advice as outdated, while parents, in turn, struggle to understand the new realities their children face. And without reconciliation, we remain trapped in a cycle of hurt and distance, affecting not only our lives but also society as a whole. Malachi's warning: consequences for the world. Returning to Malachi's time, the prophet understood that reconciliation between parents and children was more than a personal matter. It was a spiritual one, as God saw this bond as essential to the people's harmony. The warning of destruction at the end of the verse speaks of a type of curse that is not merely punishment but the inevitable consequence of a world without family unity and love. Looking around today, we can see the consequences that family distance and the lack of reconciliation bring. In large cities, where life is rushed and there's little time for deep conversations, family relationships are becoming more fragile. It's not only families that suffer. When the family foundation is divided, society loses its strength. The peace and understanding we learn at home reflect in how we relate to others, and when that is lacking, we see an increase in violence, misunderstanding, and indifference. Here, Malachi's teaching strikes with force. Without reconciliation between parents and children, the very land suffers. In today's world, many scientists and scholars discuss the impacts of our actions on the planet. The effects of our internal and social conflicts reflect not only in family environments but also in the health of our society and even our planet. How often do our internal and social conflicts reflect in how we treat nature and those around us? Josiah and Ephraim: redemption through listening. After many years of silence, Josiah felt called to try one last reconciliation with Ephraim. With his usual calm, he reached out to his son and invited him on a walk through the mountains, where they could speak openly. At first, Ephraim resisted, but when he saw the sincerity in his father's eyes, he accepted the invitation. As they walked, Josiah patiently listened to everything Ephraim had to say, his frustrations, his doubts, and the reasons why he had distanced himself. In response, Josiah spoke of his love for his son and his hope that he would understand the value of forgiveness and unity. For a moment, the two looked at each other in silence, and in that exchange of glances, there was mutual understanding. Reconciliation didn't mean they would agree on everything, but they could find a path to peace. And that's where Malachi's lesson finds its answer. Reconciliation doesn't require that parents and children share all the same ideas and values, but that they learn to respect and love, despite their differences. When a family chooses reconciliation, it spreads that peace beyond its walls. It's like a river that expands, bringing life wherever it goes. Just as Josiah and Ephraim found a new way to connect, we too can find ways to promote reconciliation in our homes and in our society. This spirit of unity was what Malachi sought. God wanted his people to be united so that the world would reflect his peace and love. And this begins with small actions, in conversations, in the willingness to listen and forgive. The call for reconciliation today. Malachi's prophecy ends with a clear request, a promise that healing for many of the world's ills begins with family reconciliation. And this is true for today's times. Look at your own life. Is there someone you need to reconcile with? Is there a relationship that needs healing, perhaps someone you haven't spoken to in years? Our choice to seek reconciliation can change not only our lives but also inspire those around us to do the same. Thus, Malachi's final message is not just a warning but a promise of healing. If each of us takes a step toward peace and understanding in our homes, we are contributing to a better world. How about starting now? Like Josiah and Ephraim, we can choose to take the first step. After all, as Malachi suggests, reconciliation not only brings hearts closer but also transforms the world. The final answer. So, why did Malachi leave us with this promise and warning? Because he knew that family reconciliation is the foundation of a just and healthy society. This is God's call to us, now and always, that we choose peace, unity, and love, starting in our homes. If you feel moved by this message and want to know more about biblical teachings like this, subscribe to our channel, Biblical Tales and Prayers. There, we explore stories that will inspire you to reflect on your own journey and on how the ancient messages of the Bible can still transform our lives today. Join us as we dive into these truths and walk toward a more united and reconciled world.